So good morning, and you find me in my kitchen today because I'm going to do a job which I've been putting off for ages, and that's I'm going to be installing a induction hob into this kitchen of ours. Now we've had it a while, so it's actually sitting just behind me. I'll show you in a second. But this is quite a common job that I get asked out to do, is fitting cookers and hobs and all sorts into kitchens which are already built, retrofitting them. Never impossible, but it's always having different problems which householders don't appreciate. That there's quite a lot, especially if they've got a gas cooker and they're converting over to electric and things like this. So what's the first question I would normally ask a client if I'm going in, if I've been asked out to do this sort of job? First thing I'd ask is, right, what sort of cooker or hob is it you're planning to put in? Is it going to be hardwired, or is it such a low wattage that it could just be plugged in? If it's just plugged in, reasonably straightforward, apart from where it goes. Like this one is built in behind me, you can see. Can it be, is there enough on the ring to allow that to happen? And do your diversity calculations and everything else to work out, is there enough ampage left on that particular circuit? If there is, yeah, jobs are good and off you go. You just need to work out where you're going to put it. Same is true for a hob. Even induction hobs, you can get plug-in versions, they're low current and things like this. Typical. That's our new doorbell. Get off the screen. So anyway, where do we get to? So yeah, even with so you can get hobs, low current, low wattage, and they can be plugged in as well. Okay, so let's move away from that just for a second. What happens if you need to either a hardwired, high current cooker or hob, or both? Well, then you've got to look into, okay, where can I get the power from? Because they'll need a dedicated circuit to do it. Now, reasonably straightforward if the circuit board is fairly close by. If it's on the other side of the house, like ours, not so straightforward, because you've got to put it all over the roof and into the thing. It might turn out to be quite an expensive job to do. It's not impossible, but it could end up being expensive. Same with, obviously, with the hob as well. Now, you can have hobs and cookers on different circuits. You can have them on the same circuit if you've got a big enough MCB and a big enough cable already there. So let's assume now that there is a cable already there, there is a cooker already present, just for example, and they want to have a new cooker and they want to put in a hob as well. So what you can do is go and check, see what cable has already been laid and see what MCB is there. Now normally you'd have a 40 amp MCB on a cooker circuit with at least a 6 amp cable, normally. And I know here that's exactly what we've got. We've got a 6 amp cable with a 40 amp MCB. This cooker, I've already checked. There's enough current on my circuit that I can actually add the induction hob onto. That's absolutely fine. And I'll get a double cooker point so that I can split the load. And I've got a isolator switch sitting behind me on the wall, so I can do that. So once you've done all of those, you're just about there. Now, obviously, you've then got to look at where these things are going to go. Now, hopefully, I'm lucky in this case. This is our induction hob, which we, as I say, we've had for a while, so I've actually got it in the hole. Now, obviously, if the client wants to put it somewhere, then obviously we need to see where we can put it. Now, we're quite lucky because that's where the induction hob is, and just over here, that is where our cooker is. And as I say, the isolator's back there. Now, the cooker point is actually behind here. I thought we've actually had this out already just to have a look. The cooker point isn't behind there. It's actually behind that top drawer. So what I've got to try and work out is how I'm going to get the cable for the hob from the cooker point, which is behind there, behind here, and up to there. That I haven't worked out just yet. I'm going to work that out in a minute. But I've already worked out that the rating, the wattage and current rating for that, combined with that, is absolutely fine for the circuit that we're going to be working on. Now, I'm going to cut back to the studio and I'll show you the calculations for the cable, the circuit breaker and diversity calculations so that you can see how this all works out. So we have a 4.1 kilowatt cooker, a 6.2 kilowatt induction hob, which gives us a total load of 44.8 amps. Now when we take into account the diversity calculation, that actually gives us 20.4 amps to play with. So the cable and MCB selection we need is anything from a 6mm TNE and a 32 amp MCB. Right, so there we go. So that's how we do that. So what we're going to do now, you're going to see how we're going to get all this lot together as I work out how we do it. As I say, I know the cooker point's not behind here, it's behind the front drawer. This kitchen was put in 14 years ago before we moved in by the previous owner, and it was not put in brilliantly. I will say that now. It's a bit of a shambles, to be honest. So I'm having to work with that as well. Now very quickly, just before I get on, because I've got to lift that hob out. That hob is actually a hob that can be used both on 3-phase and single phase. So I've got a 5-core cable, just got that from CEF, because the cable that came with it isn't long enough to get to the cooker point. So I've got to put in a double cooker point, and I've got to put in the new cable, and I've got to arrange the cable so that it's for single phase. The connections on the hob, and you'll see that in a minute, are 3-phase, and there's a diagram within the manual on how you wire it up for single phase use. It's from Germany, where 3-phase is actually quite common on the continent. Obviously it's not here, not in a domestic environment anyway, but it can be used for single phase. You just need to wire it in the right way. So I'll show you how to do that, and then we're going to have some fun and games on how we're going to get this all cabled up. Okay, let's show you where we got up to then. So this is the new 5-core cable. This is the cable that comes from the new induction hob. As you can see, 3-phase wiring on here, and what they've done is they've joined these cables together. So what I've got to make sure I do is make sure that I duplicate that. This is the original cable that's attached to the thing. It's too short, which is why I bought this one. So this is obviously going in there. You can see there's they've got a plug in there that's actually on the ring. So in there, just about to pick out, there is the original point, cooker point. There we go. There's the original cooker point. So as you can see, I had to, when I got the cooker out, the point wasn't behind the cooker, it was down here. So I had to try and locate where the cable was going down, because I couldn't. It looks like there is really not a lot of room to see what's going on. This is the back of this cupboard. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but anyway. So basically, I've got to get a bigger hole there. So that's the hole that was cut by the previous owner of the house, and this is the hole that I've cut. So as you can see, yeah, that back hole I've got to make bigger. This hole is big enough, but that hole's got to be bigger because the thing I'm trying to put in is twice the size. And that, hang on, I'll just get hold of it. There we go. And that is what we're putting in. Okay, so the top two are the incoming. Oh no, sorry, the top two are the I'll get this right in a minute. Top two is earth, and then you've got the bottom two line and neutrals. Okay, so that's what's going on there, and then obviously you've got line coming there, line coming there. The two earths are coming up into that one, earth from the main cable going there, and it all goes splits off. It makes sense when I've done it. Okay, so that's a metal back box back there that screws into,
and the single cable that's coming out is going to the cooker at the moment. So that's all got to come off. I've got to cut that hole bigger, and then we go from there. Now that cable, obviously I cannot get behind there. Come what might, there's not a chance. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to come through there. I'm going to drill a hole through there, through this cupboard and into that cupboard, which is where the hole is, and then run the cable up to it. What I'm going to do, just to make it neat and tidy, I'm going to put in a 20mm white PVC conduit through the back of this cabinet. Don't have to do that, but I think it'll look neater if I do that. I think it'll just look neater. So yeah, we'll do that. And then screw that into place, then run the cable through the conduit. How far I'll run the conduit along, I don't know yet. I'm gonna have a ponder how we do that, just to make it look neat and tidy. But first thing to do is we need to get a hole. We need to enlarge that hole, and we need to put in the conduit into there. I may do that first and then do that, I think. Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Right, quick update as to where we're up to. I've got the induction hub up the wrong way, so we can get to the cables. So there's the cables for the existing conductors into all the different points. That's coming out because it's not long enough, so I've cut this to length. This is what's going to go into that top bit. As you can see down there, we've got a piece of flexible white conduit. I'm only doing that really to basically protect it. As it's gone through the cupboard, it's gone through this cupboard here and comes out back there, as you can see. So what we're going to do next is I'm thinking I'm actually going to run this. I'm going to put a hole in the back wall, and then I'm going to run that cable through there, so it's well away from all the pots and pans that are going to be in here, and then run the black cable up through there and then into here. That's what I think I'm going to do there. And I think I might do something similar back here. I don't know yet, because the drawers don't, as you can see from that drawer, it doesn't go all the way back anyway, so it is going to be protected. And then we'll run the cable in through there. I don't know, I might drill a hole in the back plane and then come through. As I still need to cut that, but I'll do that in a minute once I've done the rest over here. Then when I've done this bit, I can get this thing all back in the hole and done from there. Now, I think I said earlier in the video that this was a potentially single phase and 3-phase. I don't think it is. I just think it's the way it's configured. I think it is a single phase device. It's interesting that these are 1.5mm conductors and everything else is 6mm. So obviously the manufacturers aren't expecting this to go full tilt either. This is a 6.2 kilowatt device. So with the diversity calculations, how I've worked all this out, with this being 6.2 and the oven, excuse me, being 4.1. And then with all the diversity calculations, 6mm cable, it's got a 32 amp MCB in the board, not a problem. Won't be a problem at all. So I'm going to get a hole drilled back of this board, feed that through, get the existing cable out, get that cabled in, get that back in the hole, and then we'll work at the other end. I know some of you are going to ask in a minute, why was I going to drill another hole there when I've got one already there? Yeah, I know. Right, so it's early in the morning. Right, anyway, so we got that done. I'm going to hoover this all up, it's a right mess. So we've got that in there. Oh, by the way, that gas pipe is defunct. That was blocked off years and years and years ago. There's no gas going through that, and it hasn't done for probably a decade or more. That's when there was an old gas hob here. That was blocked off. Oh, crikey, I can't even remember when that was blocked off now. So there's no gas going through that pipe at all. In fact, there never will be, because it's been removed, shall we say. There's only one gas appliance in this house which currently doesn't work, which is our boiler. That's another problem I've got to deal with. Anyway, I digress. So we've got that in there. I've got to obviously cut this cable to length, not this end. I'm going to pull it through and then get this to the right length, but we'll do that once I've got this hooked up to the hob, and then we'll pull it through, and then we'll get on with that end. Right. So just real quickly, I'm going to fill the ends of these cables into the induction hob. Had this thing for years from Perceiver. Well, actually bought this from Amazon. It's great. Loved using this thing for ferruling the ends of cables, especially the smaller ones.
I've actually got another one somewhere floating around, which I'm going to use at the other end. Can't see it at the moment, but when I get to the other end, as you'll see, I've got to, it's got the old cable. You can see I've got to join these together. So I've got some special ferrules which allow that to be done. So I'll be using those at the other end. Right, so let's get this wired up and then we can get on. Right, okay, so we're now all wired up here. Now, as I discovered, these are ring terminal connections, not ferrule connections. So I had to take off all the ferrules I did and put rings on. Anyway, we did that, we crimped it all up, and as you just seen, done all the tests, it's fine. So we get this back in its hole, and then we'll pull the rest of this cable through, and then we'll work on the other end. So I'm just checking to make sure this cable I've put in is all working. It's also for the paperwork as well. So we're going to do the end one first. We're going to do black cable first. If I can find it, there's black cable. Black cable on that end. Probe onto that. Here, point 1. Happy with that. Then we're going to find the grey, which is there. The grey. Point 1 as well, which is good. And the earth, which is that one.
Not point 1.
Point 1, yeah, we're happy with that. Blue, which is that one.
Not point 1.
Point 1. And finally the brown. Oop, got it. Missed it. Point 1. Yep, happy with those readings.
Is that good?
So that cable's absolutely fine. That can be installed properly. And I'll keep those for the paperwork later. Right. So there we are. That's the hob back in its hole. Needs a bit of a sweeping up and cleaning. I'll just show you where we're up to in here now then. So as you can see, so the cable comes through there, up there, and then goes up into the underside of the induction hob. So that's all done. That's all nice and neat. And it is back there somewhere. And then what we've done in here is exactly what I said I was going to do. As you can see, I've put that conduit through the back wall and then back through there. And that's how that's going to work. I think it looks much, much neater. Needs a bit of a hoover just to clean that up a bit. And then that keeps it out of the way. Then that cable will go into the new cooker point behind there, and there's any slack of the black cable will tuck down behind, out of the way. Now I've been putting off cutting that hole out, but now I've got to the point where I've got to cut that hole out. So that'll be the next job to do. Okay, so as you can see, we've moved on a little bit now. Got the new dual cooker point in place, and we've got, whoops, the light behind me is a bit, there you go. So we've got the dual cooker point in place, and those are the cables running up from the isolator, the other side of the wall. So like I said, I've confirmed this is all 6mm cable now. This is this long snake of cable. You can see there, yeah, it's the cooker cable. Now you might think, crack, that's a heck of a lot of cable, but what you've got to think of is that if the cooker's pulled out, obviously you're going to pull this cable with it, so you do need a fair bit. Now the black cable you can see is obviously the one going that I've laid to the induction hob, but I'm going to give the same amount of slack on this cable. So if they need to get the induction hob out, or if I need to get the induction hob out at any time, I can do so without having to worry about snagging the cable. So what we're going to do next is get those cables into those terminal points, and we'll do that next. I'll do the twin and earth cable first, and then I'm going to do the 5 core, because that needs a little bit more work. I'll show you what needs to be done on that in a second. Okay, so there we go. So that's the dual cooker point in place. Top cable's coming on, the one coming in from the isolator switch. Black cable's going to the hob, and grey cables going back to the cooker. So you've got neutrals on the right, lines on the left, earths at the top. And you might just be able to pick out, I'll just turn this light off. Right, so I've just moved the light. It's not easy because this is really dark in here because I've got the lights on. So you might just be able to pick out, if I can get it in. There we go. Right, as you can probably see, you've got the black and the brown I've had to connect together for the hob. And on the other side, you can't quite see it on the other side, but there's the grey and the blue are connected together on the right for the neutrals. So the black and brown are lines and the neutrals on the other side. So all 5 conductors are all connected, and obviously the earths at the top. So I've got to put the restraining bar back on, which I'll do in a minute, but we'll go from there. Let's go back up here.
So here's the induction hob. Got power. And I'll put the pan of water on that one. Let's see if it works. Got a noise. I think we could call that a successful test. Right, so I'll get the power back off, get the cover on, get the restraining bar on and get the cover off rather. And I think we are finally finished. So there we go. A bit of fiddling. That's all on and finished. Shame the lights can't actually see all the cables and things. Anyway, that's all done. That's what I'm going to do now is tidy up the mess I've made and get these drawers back on, and we're done. So there you go. So we'll see you on the next one.